John.
Quit laughing.
I know. It is funny.
I know.
All right, Billy Cunningham, live from the House Speaker John Boehner, brought to you by Dr. Claude Hovaika of the Ear Medical Center, John, and 700 WLW. And John Boehner, welcome to the Bill Cunningham Show.
I'm glad to be hosting you in my office.
Yeah, when I look at you, I laugh. When you look at me, you laugh, don't you?
Well, we've seen a lot of each other over the last 30 years, and
it's funny.
And here we are. Here we are.
How did this happen? Can someone tell me?
God works in mysterious ways.
It's unbelievable. All right, let's talk about some of the issues with your permission. Right now, America is in a fiscal crisis by any objective standard. And USA Today this week has this chart up that talks about where we were in the last 10 years, and it's unspeakable. And Jim DeMint has written a column for USA Today this week in which he talks about, in 1990, which was about when you first came into Congress, the debt at that point was $3 trillion in 1990. Here we are, short 20 years later, and it's at $14 trillion on its way to $20 trillion. We didn't build infrastructure. We didn't build highway systems. We didn't make the bridge in the 21st century. What we did was just waste the money. And you were here for a lot of it. And I think you bear some small responsibility for what's happened. Since it was our generation that caused this, will it be our generation that solves it?
It should be. And I think there's no limit to the amount of money that this Congress is willing to spend, willing to cut. And I think we have to understand that all of this spending, all of this deficit spending, is causing job creators in America to hold back. I think business people around the country, investors in our country, are looking to see if Congress is going to right the ship and begin to scale back spending so that we can only have as much government as we can afford.
Now, WorldNet Daily and others, I monitor websites constantly, and they're saying don't let House Republicans fail to keep their promises. There's all these stuff I'm reading on Drudge Report, Newsmax, WorldNet Daily, that you're going weak. That Ryan is only $32 billion. Corey tells me it's $75 billion. Rand Paul says $500 billion. You control it. You're the speaker. You're second in line to the presidency. And you can do whatever you want to do. Now, you may have problems down the street. But nonetheless, do you agree more with Rand Paul or with Paul Ryan?
Well, I think there's a lot of spending that needs to be cut. This first step is funding the government from March 4th through September 30th. We committed in the Pledge to America we'd cut $100 billion. And if you look at what's left of this fiscal year, it'll be $100 billion on an annual basis based on what the president proposed to spend last September. We're going to meet our goal and meet our commitment. As a matter of fact, I would argue that we're going to far exceed what we promised the American people in terms of our willingness to cut spending. We're going to send it over to the Senate, and I'm hopeful that Senator McConnell, Rand Paul, and others are going to work over there to try to get those things passed.
I like to wax philosophical for a minute.
Oh, really? Not you, Willie, never.
When I was here 16 years ago, and you helped set that up with Newt Gingrich, there was a sense that the Newtster was the head of the revolution. He was the guy who was advocating the contract with America, and you stood right behind him. You were like a much younger man at that time.
I had a front row seat.
You were right there. And he was head of the revolution. Is John Boehner head of the revolution, or are you trying to control the Tea Party revolution?
No, what I'm doing is I'm the leader of our party in the House, but I see myself as a consensus builder. What I'm trying to do is bring all these different factions and all these different voices and try to make sure that we're moving toward a smaller, less costly, and more accountable government. I'm absolutely convinced that if we get ourselves on a path to balance the budget, it will help our economy and will help create jobs in America.
Is John Boehner a member of the Tea Party?
I should be.
Are you?
I don't know if I actually pay dues, but I'm a big believer in the Tea Party. I talk to Tea Party activists all over my district and all over the country every day.
Do you catch flack from them at times? Because it's only been, you may not know it, but it's only been about a month. It hasn't been 6 months or a year. But it seems like some conservative websites and others are saying that John Boehner is getting weak. There's a little bit of concern, a little bit of unhappiness. Is that unhappiness justified?
No. I think people ought to realize it really has only been a month. In that first month, we cut our own budgets by 5%, saved $35 million. My leadership accounts, all the leadership accounts, the committee budgets, all the members' budgets, $35 million. Remember, we voted to repeal Obamacare. $2.6 trillion worth of spending over the next 10 years. Since then, we've had weekly U-cut votes on the floor of the House, including saving $615 million by eliminating taxpayer funding of presidential elections. You're going to see this Congress cut, and review every dime of spending that goes through here.
Last Sunday, you were with Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday, and you made a comment which caused some angst among some, which when you said that the government's not going to shut down. We're not going to let that happen. It's too important. We're not going to let that happen. Some say what you did there was throw away your best card. Your comments on the idea that you're willing, I guess you're not willing to shut down government, which means when you pass these budgets, you send them on to the president, he vetoes them, send them back, and then you're going to collapse. That was the message some heard you say.
Well, that wasn't, listen, our goal is not to shut the government down. Our goal is to reduce spending, period.
Well, are you willing to go that step with Newt Gingrich? You know what? You were here in 1996 and 97 when I was 95 when all heck broke loose, and well, all of a sudden you guys were having feeding cat food to grandma, and you were shutting down the parks, and then you collapsed. Some say that you and Gingrich said, okay, we'll go along with what Clinton wants because you couldn't stand the political flag.
Our goal is to cut spending, not to shut the government down. I'm not saying that it couldn't happen. It could happen. But our goal here is to reduce the size and scope of our government here in Washington.
So we can say that what you said on Sunday is still operative. That is, the government will not be shut down.
I can't predict what's going to happen. That's not our goal. Our goal is to cut spending.
All right, on a related matter, USA Today this week has this long story on the percentage of Americans that are upside down in their mortgage. The economy cannot recover when housing is in the pits because of plumbers, electricians, drywallers, and all the rest. For example, in Clark County, 71% of the homeowners in Clark County, Las Vegas, are upside down. Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, the number is about 40% of us have homes that are worth less than the mortgages. Can Congress do anything to spark the housing market, which would reduce unemployment and reduce the deficit? Because it looks to me like we're in a catastrophe when it comes to housing because of the short sales and the foreclosures.
What we need to do is reduce spending. Reducing spending will create jobs. The more jobs we have, the better our economy is doing. And guess what? More people will be able to afford a home. And when you get more people in the market to buy a home, it'll drive the prices up. But we've got to have more people working in America for that to happen.
As far as the unemployment rate, it went down. It was like 9.0%. The only reason it went down is 550,000 Americans threw in the towel and said, I'm not looking for work anymore. And there was another story at the time that we have the lowest participation in the employment market with 151 million people working that we had since 1983. So in the last 30 years, people are not working. And there's a sense no matter what you do, it won't matter because you got your buddy Harry Reid in the Senate that's not going to be a John Boehner. He's not going to do what you want to do. And so when there's that kind of gridlock, how do you change the employment status in this country, John?
Well, I think the way we change it is again, we've got to cut spending, and we have to reduce the uncertainty that's affecting employers all over the country. All the uncertainty around the new health care law, all the uncertainty around Dodd-Frank to the new financial services regulations. It's going to dry up credit for not only small businesses, but millions and millions of Americans because of all the rules and regulations that are in there. How about the uncertainty that's being created by the EPA when it comes to all of their new clean air standards and their desire to want to regulate how much CO2 is in the air? This creates uncertainty, and when there's uncertainty, investors and business people sit on their hands and wait for the picture to clear. $2 trillion worth of corporate profits sitting in banks today because employers are scared to death to invest.
I'll give you the reason. I'm a small business owner. I know exactly what's going on with Obamacare and the fear of what it's going to cost with the 9% penalty. And the other thing is the EPA rules and regulations and the bureaucracy. Shell Oil had been trying for 18 months to drill an oil well in the Arctic Circle. After 18 months, they threw in the towel and said, we can't deal with it anymore. The EPA won't move. Obama has stopped drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, in the Atlantic Ocean, and any other place in the country. And then we import oil from Saudi Arabia. So what can you do?
And wait till this summer. Wait till this summer when the price of gasoline is $4 a gallon, because that's where it's going. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And guess what? The American people get re-engaged in the fight for an all-of-the-above energy strategy. We've been working on this. We've been talking about it for the last 3 or 4 years. And let me tell you what, the House and the Senate, and I suspect even the White House, is going to have a chance to have more energy brought to the United States. And let's see what they do.
So John Boehner, I've read this everywhere, John, about $4 a gallon this summer, $5 a gallon next summer, and nothing's being done. You and I have gone through the Carter, the Reagan, the Bush, and the Clinton.
You haven't listened to the president, Willie.
I
The president's convinced that solar energy and wind energy will solve all of our problems.
That's less than 1%.
Oh, I know.
It's less than 1%.
Well, listen to the president. He's got the answer.
We're going to have windmills on our cars. We're going to have solar panels on the roofs of our cars. Where's it going to come from? The fact is, can you defund? This is what Rand Paul's idea, which I like that guy. He's a little liberal for me, but I like that guy. He says, get rid of the Department of Education, the Department of Commerce, the Department of Labor. Now, will you support legislation that eliminates, say, the Department of Energy, which has failed miserably in its task? Will you support that?
There's a lot of spending that needs to be cut, and all of these proposals ought to be reviewed. There ought to be hearings. Congress ought to do its proper oversight of the administrative branch of government, and we will.
All right. Take a short break. We continue. On the other side, we have about 5 more minutes with John Boehner. I'm going to ask you the big question about Rob Portman being on the national ticket in 2012. And maybe John Boehner on the national ticket in 2012. But at least Rob Portman, and whether you stand with him or do you oppose him. Plus, I have some more questions about immigration and things of that character.
I'm sure they'll be easy.
They'll be very simple. Because right now, John, our generation caused this problem, and our generation needs to solve this problem.
We will.
The country given to you by your mom and dad and by my mom is not the country we're going to give to our grandkids. You don't have any grandkids yet.
Not yet.
But at some point you will. And they're going to look you in the eye and say, Daddy, when you were the Speaker of the House, what did you do to save this country from the depression that's coming? And I want you to look them in the eye and say, this is what I did. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're unique. I'm babbling. The rest of your staff is just looking. But you're the guy who can actually do it. So I'm going to put the cheese on the cracker when we continue.
Go, Willie.
Billy Cunningham live with Speaker of the House John Boehner. I asked you this off the air about the gig. He kind of started off as a backbencher. Quickly, Newt said, this guy's got a shot. He moved you up to leadership quickly. And here you are 16 years later, second in line to the presidency. What's different about the gig now than it was, say, 2 years ago?
Well, not a whole lot. It's about managing your team. It's about providing the vision and direction and developing the strategy about where we're going and how we're going to get there. So it's really not a great deal different, other than when you have the majority, you can actually do it.
Give me the 2 or 3 standards. If you're in this job a day, a week, a month, 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, how would John Boehner like to be judged as the Speaker by history's perspective? Can you give me 2 or 3 benchmarks that I can look back and say, okay, John, you did it?
Well, I think that if we're serious about taking on the big challenges that face our country, it's really important that we have a Congress that works. This place is broken, and the American people know it's broken. And I have embarked on a plan of opening up the House, forcing work back into the committees, rebuilding the committee structure, having real oversight. And I think that if I'm correct, this will bring the two parties actually a bit closer. We'll melt some of the partisan divide that we've seen build up in this institution over the 20 years that I've been here. And I think that you'll see more legislation done on a bipartisan basis. I think that the rancor will come down, and the American people will see it. And I frankly think we'll see it pretty soon.
How about a financial benchmark? Because that's an amorphous term. Go along, get along. Can you give me a balanced budget? Can you say to me in 4, 6 years, or maybe 1 year? Give me a number.
Willie, remember, you just kind of brushed aside my number one objective.
Well, I mean, but
if
you
we're
can't
serious,
judge that.
if we're serious about having an institution that works, if we're serious about taking on the big challenges, you've got to have an institution where people can work together to accomplish these things. When it comes to spending money, we've got to get a plan to balance the budget and to pay off the debt. This is not going to be easy. We're going to have cuts here in discretionary spending over the next couple of weeks. You'll see us in March begin to work on some of what we call mandatory spending programs. But we've got to get serious about the entitlement programs, the big ones: Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. These programs are not sustainable in their current form. And I've said it to anybody who will listen. It's time for us as Americans to have an adult conversation with each other about the big challenges that face us.
Are you willing to do what's politically unpopular if it means your job? For example,
I'm going to do the right thing every day for the American people.
well, what if it means raising the retirement age to 68 or 70? What if it means...
I am going to do the right thing every day for the American people.
Is that
I am not worried about my job.
You could give it up tomorrow. If you do what is right for the country, even if it's politically unpopular, and you're kicked out of office, you're embarrassed and ridiculed and you're gone.
I'm going to do the right thing every day. I didn't come here to be a congressman. I came here to do something. I don't need to be the Speaker of the House because I need some big fancy title. I want this job to lead an effort to do the right things for the American people.
And the right thing means cutting spending.
It sure does.
And it means cutting the growth of the entitlements. And it means cutting defense. Why do we have 850 military bases in 130 different countries? We can't afford it. If we can afford it, do it. But I say bring home the boys from Iraq, bring home the boys from Afghanistan, shut down the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower argued about. I say bring home American soldiers, John. Bring them home.
Bill, the number one job of our government is to protect the American people. And all of our efforts in the Pentagon, in the Department of Defense, are geared toward securing our country. This is an important obligation, and you've got to be careful. It's easy to say bring the troops home from Iraq or bring them home from Afghanistan, but I'm not going to provide safe haven in Afghanistan for those terrorists who want to plan, train, and execute attacks on Americans here abroad. I'm not going to do it.
All right, do you have any questions for me?
How's your golf game?
You know, I haven't played in several months, and I don't know how my golf game is, but I can probably still beat you.
I do want to say congratulations on your free throw contest. I took Byron Larkin to task when I was at the Xavier Temple basketball game. Boy, you made 10 in a row, and he missed the second one.
Yeah, no, he was done.
I know.
See, Larkin can't shoot. Bobby Brandon can't shoot. Those guys, they were slashers and bangers. They weren't shooters.
You don't think much of yourself, do you?
No, not at all. But I can shoot, but I can't slash and bang. Well, John Boehner, thank you. And I want to say to you in a serious way that you are uniquely positioned with the right philosophy to change America and to change the world. And please, in 2 or 3 years, don't look back upon this golden time in 2011 in the first 6 months when you can actually do something big. Because this is the moment, and you are the man, and now's the time for you to seize history. Please do it.
You have nothing to worry about. Just watch.
I'll leave it on that. John Boehner, you're a great American.
See you, brother.
God bless you. Bill Cunningham live in John Boehner's office on